And welcome to Armstrong Meats. This is the last of the meat processing plants in the centre of Belfast. Most of them are now out into the sticks, and they used to have a lot of staff that were Europeans. So staff in these plants has got harder to get, but also rising costs. I mean, we have spent the last fortnight, we've been in breweries, we've been on farms, we've been in farm shops, bakeries, butcheries, and all of them are saying the same thing. The price of raw materials is rising, the price of energy is rising, and of course that means that wages in places like this also have to rise. Just a short while ago I spoke with two of the directors of the company here, and this is what they had to say.
Yes, price rises have went up, and they're going up every single week. We got an email this morning that pork is going to increase by 25% next week. It's just non-stop.
There's a scarcity of beef worldwide. And of course, the Ukraine war doesn't help matters either. Chicken has went up drastically in this last couple of weeks. Actually, 2 rises last week alone. There's never a week that we don't have rises. Matter of fact, it's mostly daily. If it's not meat and pork, it is packaging.
They even talk about packaging. Cardboard has went up 70% in the last 3 years. That's not because of the Ukrainian war, of course, it's because of we sat at home during COVID. We ordered stuff online, and of course that all had to come in packaging. And during that time, lots of people weren't there manufacturing cardboard and packaging. We're also looking at the rising cost of energy here. Now, I've heard you through the programme talking about fuel, the VAT on fuel and how that plays out. Now, most businesses will be able to claim the VAT back. But if the Chancellor decides to drop the VAT on fuel, of course in Northern Ireland that will not apply because of the Northern Ireland Protocol. We're held inside the EU's VAT registration and so forth, and any divergence is brought through the European Courts of Justice. All those things are playing very, very badly for small business, and they are the backbone of our economy. And when you look at things like bank loans, when you look at costs of machinery and raw materials and having to get that cash flow right, it brings a whole new light to what must happen with the Chancellor's spring budget.
Dougie, great to have you on the show. Let me just ask you, you're from a farming background. You know Northern Ireland really, really well. We've just heard from a farmer in Snowdonia, in Wales. I talk to lots of farmers in the east of England where I live. There's a picture emerging, isn't there, of rising fuel and fertiliser costs for our farmers. So even if we divert towards more domestic production of food, by the time that food gets into the shops, it's still going to be really pricey.
It is absolutely scandalous. I mean, we covered red diesel being cut away a few months back. I don't think anybody else touched it. And that is going to have a big, big effect on cash flow. Although they get the VAT back on it, it still means that they're going to be out that cash for at least a quarter. We're looking at our crops coming in. Potatoes that we're planting now, Ukraine, the 4th biggest producer of potatoes in Europe, they'll not be out of the ground at all this year. Our potatoes won't be out until September, October, November. The price of fertiliser now, I think this morning I looked at it and it was nearly £800 a tonne. When we spoke about it last week, it was £640 a tonne. That is a massive hike in what farmers have to put into the ground. And a lot of that comes back down to European legislation. When we were told that we weren't allowed to put slurry in the ground between the 16th of October and the 2nd week in February, they basically choked farming. A lot of that legislation in round quota, especially, even with milk and dairy products, sent farming out of reach of normal small farms. Now that food security that we really need is beyond us, and we're going to have to get some way of getting back to our own food and our own fuel.